Hey man, how you doing?
I do well. I'd say pretty darn well, all things considered. I like laughing at nothing in particular, so.
So, you went to the bar?
Yeah, and this guy was like, "Oh, you want to play a game of pool?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure thing. Let me just go get my stick from the car." And the people.
You keep a stick in the car?
But it's called a Sneaky Pete, because it looks just like a regular pool stick, like a bar cue, but
Right.
it's a custom 3-piece, with a handmade tip, and it's exactly right, straight and true, and exactly what I want.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and so
you just keep it in the car?
yeah, I mean the weather's cold enough right now. If it starts to get hot, then I'll bring it into the house.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm always ready to go.
You meet anybody there?
Well, today I took down people's phone numbers of people that I had met briefly in the past, acquaintances, trying to get people closer.
Right.
People seem to like the idea of the hot tub, so hopefully they'll come join.
Yeah, that's a very nice perk you have for living there.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm supposed to meet some emergency room doctor.
Okay, so you got in touch with her.
Yeah. She told me her dog's name is Pepper.
Oh, she likes dogs. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't actually know her name. She's using some pseudonym, for the online dating, but I know her dog's name, so that's it.
So, did you look at the video I sent you?
Which video is that?
Joe Biden was at a town hall yesterday, and some guy questioned him and about his son, and how do you let your son join this corrupt company? And Joe Biden responded angrily, and he ultimately called the guy who's an Elizabeth Warren supporter fat and stupid. I thought it was so funny. Because the guy is noticeably overweight. That's part of why it's funny, I think. It's also funny because you're not supposed to do that when you're running for president.
Challenge him to a push-up contest.
Yeah! He challenged him to a push-up contest. And then he called him old and fat.
What's going on, man? That's crazy.
I thought that was really funny.
That's crazy. I don't know, man. I'm trying to hold back laughter.
Yeah, because he does.
What's wrong with
like
the
that.
dude?
Like, he does those things like.
It's Captain Cornflakes.
Oh, Corn Puff?
Yeah, he's fighting off the Corn Puffs.
Oh, yeah. There was that guy, Corn Puff, right? Corn Puff. Yeah, so he had a knife, and I had a chain, and we were doing this West Side Story style, and I said, whoa, this is crazy. What are we doing here? We should talk out our differences, and then he went his way, and I went my way, and then he said he would vote for me when I run for president.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Corn Pop, that guy.
He got Corn Pops to be a supporter.
I think that was the moral of that story.
He's the first guy to convert corn pops into a Biden supporter. And he really showed that corn pops who's boss, being the bigger man.
Yeah, I think Biden's kind of like the corn pops. He's
more of a corn flake.
Whatever, it's a bowl of cereal, it'll get a vote.
Yeah, I think he'd go soggy in a bowl of milk, though.
But he wants us to believe that he's not soggy.
Yeah, soggy Joe.
When your teeth fall out of your mouth while you're talking on national television.
Has that happened?
Yeah. In September or July, one of those two nights when they had the Democratic debate, it was so funny. I didn't pick up that's what it was at first when I was watching it. But, I mean, if your teeth fall out mid-sentence and you have to push it back in with your tongue, that's soggy.
Dude. Oh my goodness. I'm beside myself. I hadn't heard about that, and I consider myself to be fairly well informed. I guess it's because I didn't watch the Democrat debates.
Oh yeah, I try to watch them all. Whether you love them or hate them, it's important. You got to watch it. It's good to know what's going on, and also it's very entertaining.
Okay.
I mean, I can't wait to see Biden and Trump go at it.
I don't think it'll come to that.
Whatever it is. I mean, you see them try to compete with each other. It's like, it's like imagine you had two differently able
graders. Sorry.
I was thinking differently abled senior citizens. One's, and you want them to box like Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. One of them is in a wheelchair, and the other one has a cane. Yes, the one in the wheelchair has both hands free, but he can't move around very much. But the one in the cane has to fight one-handed. The boxing match. No. It's boxing. You're not allowed to use that. So, you can move around and flank the other guy, but you can only use one hand. It's a real good matchup of incapable watching these guys go back and forth.
Maybe we can get them some medals at the end, or trophies. Participation trophies. Thank you for playing after the Trump hopeful landslide.
Well, regardless, it would be nice to see them put somebody up that's quality. I think a lot of people would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd support Tulsi Gabbard. I'd support Trump over her, but I'd at least support the debate.
Well, yeah. Tulsi Gabbard. That was really awesome what she did to Kamala Harris.
Well, she ended Kamala Harris's campaign.
Some people think that. Some people think that she never had much of a campaign. But
I agree.
It was still a really great moment to see it. And no matter how many times you see it, it's still, you want to yell out, "Oh, bird!" Like every time you hear that clip, and kept people past their sentences to use as cheap labor, like, "Oh!" Like every time you hear it,
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine the clown circus music going at the same time.
Well, that's what's fun about it. I mean, whoever it is still going to be very entertaining to watch.
Yeah. I don't suspect that they'll get much time to speak. Because Trump's going to have a lot to say.
Yeah, he would.
I remember when it was with Clinton, and Clinton is a fairly confident individual in comparison to the people that are running right now. Although I will put forward the hypothesis that she will run again in 2020, and perhaps again in 2024 if she's not. If she's able.
Well, she might set a record in two ways then. Not only could she be the first female president, but she could be the oldest one ever elected.
I don't think that'll stop her.
I don't know. If Biden doesn't get in 2024, he might run it in 2020. If he doesn't get in 2020, he might try to run again in 2024. You never know with him.
They're going to open
the last 30 years.
They're going to find a nursing home called the White House, or otherwise open one and call it the White House, and they'll send him there, and he'll be very happy.
Yeah,
they'll call him Mr. President.
He'd be a ball when he gets dementia. He gets dementia. He'd be like, "What? Where are we? Denny's? No, this is Denny's. What? Where are we? Ukraine? Hello? Anybody? Can you hear me?"
I smell some shampoo. Come closer. Maybe you can get the legs on my hairs to stand up and tingle.
Yeah.
He's a strange character. I feel bad for the man. I don't think that he should be in the public spotlight.
He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He seems like a very decent, down-to-earth man now. He's been caught lying a bunch of times, but
he's a politician.
Yeah, but it's so obvious. It's not like something you could just walk back. He'll try to practically tell you it didn't happen. But
he's not one of the smarter politicians.
I think what it probably is that he's been doing it for so long. It's like, oh, okay, I said that. Now I'm going to change the subject or whatever. That could also be effective.
Yeah.
Because, he's been at this for like 30 years.
Yeah, and one could argue that it's been changing constantly, but at the same time it's changed more, in the last 10 years than the previous 20.
Everything's changed. That's the fact that it's changed. That's one of the advantages that Obama had. He had much better use of social media than McCain. Trump had a better use of social media than everybody. That's how he got like $5 billion in free press attention. A couple of months ago, didn't he write like 4 dots or something on Twitter, and that was his tweet? And it got tens of thousands of retweets.
Yeah, not to mention videos on YouTube about how it was a coded message.
When you do something like that, it's almost impossible, I think, to buy that kind of press coverage, because even if you have $50 billion like Michael Bloomberg, and you can spend $15 billion, let's say you wanted to, you essentially have to buy all of these newspaper outlets to do that. Otherwise, if they're trying to report on news, they're going to report on what gets more clicks. And dot obviously moves the markets.
It somehow did, yes.
Family Guy made a joke a few years ago about if Ozzy Osbourne does anything, then all of the his fans will cheer. So he's like losing his touch. He says, hey, I was gonna I was gonna bite the head off of this bat at this concert, but I'm just gonna eat this sandwich instead. And everyone cheers, and he's like, "Oh, you lost his touch." Uh, that's kind of what it's like, if Trump writes ... everybody cheers.
I suppose. I mean,
Okay, the supporters will cheer. I mean, people that don't like it will boo, but that's also really funny. I mean, it's like nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't. So he tweets 4 dots, and nobody ignores it. I mean, not literally nobody, but just a vast majority of people pay attention to it.
I don't know how you can compete with that. I mean, there is a way to compete with that, but the mainstream news, that's to be a perverse incentive. They say that they hate him, but if they hate him so much, why do they keep writing about him? It's because that's what drives the news cycle.
Well, I think that he's a far more dynamic character than the people that are running against him or writing about him or any of that. He's essentially unpredictable in many ways, and what he's going to say.
Of course. But that's part of why he's such a great story. Trump does this, Trump does that, he's bashing the press. Well, if they gave someone else this much media attention, they'd prop him up, and that's what they did. And I think that's what they did in Texas with Beto O'Rourke. The media propped him up, essentially. But he wasn't very charismatic, and he lost to Ted Cruz for Senate. And, you could try to prop somebody up if you really want to, but it's not going to drive the story as well as having somebody that,
well, he's like a random number generator.
I mean, he says a lot of provocative things, to say the least, and there's no substitute for that kind of stream of consciousness
provocative
when you're trying to get attention. So they're naturally more inclined to write about that and to cover that, and there's so much to cover all the time. One news outlet might cover one thing, another news outlet might cover another thing. So, because each is trying to outdo the other with the shock value. You have all the shock value, they're trying to outdo each other, and they come out with like 10 shocking stories all at once, but none of them can gain any traction because there's so many of them. And well, and the news benefits. The news absolutely benefits.
Yeah, I mean, it's a win-win for them. They get to attack the mean orange man, and they get clicks.
Yeah, imagine if they had someone like Gerald Ford as president. What would they do? What would the New York Times write about if Gerald Ford was president, nowadays?
Or James Madison.
They'd probably think he's a bit radical. And he kind of was.
Okay.
But, I mean, yeah, James Madison helped write the Constitution, I think. But, no, I mean, like, Gerald Ford, seems like kind of boring. He wasn't bombastic or anything. He was clumsy. He wasn't the most charismatic. He wasn't the lightning rod that draws all the attention.
Yeah.
Or at least from my understanding of it. The U.S. president is always going to draw a lot of attention, but or George H.W. Bush, he He wasn't particularly charismatic. So I mean, so what would they do in that case? You know, they'd have nothing to write about. Oh, this guy's only had one wife, and he goes home to his wife. We have nothing to write about.
You know, they might cover other stuff, you know, like local events.
All over the tabloids. That's the thing. For so many years, and particularly about his wives too. It's not like. So what do you do?
Yeah, I mean there are very few people that can take a constant negative stream of press and use it to their advantage.
Yeah, but it's
most
not
people attach meaning to it and then get crushed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's impressive. I think that, you know, he's got a really like a brilliant team working with him, and he's a pretty smart and discerning guy.
Well, what do you know about his team? I heard he has like a new campaign manager for 2020.
Yeah, Brad Parscale.
Oh, what do you know about him?
I get emails from him regularly. You know, campaign-related things, surveys. So, you know, if he is actually the one writing them, not just signing them, then, you know, he writes well, and he seems to have an understanding of what's going to reach people. People have talked about him as a brilliant strategist, and he seems to be doing a good job in terms of fundraising from the numbers I've been seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Bloomberg could make some very bold and audacious moves and totally outspend anybody in history.
Yeah, but
remains to be seen if he will.
Even if he does, you know, some of the press isn't for sale unless you buy the press. Like you buy the company itself.
Yeah, at some point there might be antitrust that comes into effect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but Bloomberg's not a charismatic guy. I mean, I've met him in person. I've seen him in person. He's not particularly charismatic.
But he doesn't intend to win. He intends for Trump to lose. That's what he said. He said he'll do whatever's necessary so that Trump is not president.
He's clearly not doing it to win right now. I mean, otherwise he would have carried it differently, maybe. It just seems a little bit weird to mention it now. It's a little bit late.
Well, it allows him to run attack ads, you know, under certain legal protections.
Yeah, but what benefit does he have to run for president if he's not going to get in, or if he's not trying to get in?
He can run attack ads and things like that, you know, to bash. He can bash the president in ways and donate money, his own money, in ways that he otherwise wouldn't be able to the cause.
I don't think that he's idealistic in the sense of wanting to further a cause. I think that his cause, if he did run for president, would be to try to ban soda from the United States. And I got news for you. Warren Buffett would have something to say about that, because he's his company, Berkshire Hathaway, it's one of the largest shareholders of Coca-Cola.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there were, limited few investors when Coca-Cola went public in comparison to today's economy.
Well, sure, but Warren Buffett bought many years ago, and he held on to it, and that's his thing. But I mean, people like him would have a vested financial interest in Michael Bloomberg not becoming president.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did with New York City. You know, he wanted a soda tax or something like that, and
yeah, I remember they limited the sizes also.
It was a big controversy, so he didn't do it. And I mean that was that. I don't think he was as popular during his third term as he was during his first term. But then you have to wonder, why would he want to run for president at this point? Just to attack Trump is going to be kind of hard for me to swallow. He has to have a reason to attack Trump. You know, all the billions that he worked so hard for, he's not just going to squander it on some petty rivalry without getting something out of it.
That may be the case. I'm not sure. It's just my hypothesis.
Right.
Because I don't see him as a serious contender.
That's exactly my point also.
Now, I could see him as being a potential vice president.
Maybe.
And if that were the case, then who would be the president? And you know, my fear is that the answer is Clinton. It's just my hypothesis. Kind of wild speculation, let's say.
When the media made a mention of that, like a month and a half ago or something, when Clinton was on her book tour, I think it got some positive reception, but I don't think people were as enthusiastic about her running.
I also heard a rumor. I don't think it would happen. I mean, I think this is a very low probability, but a rumor of Michelle Obama running.
They've been sprinkling that in there. I don't think she wants to run. Well, why would she want to?
Right.
Well, what does she get out of it?
Nothing, really. Nothing.
And she's popular now, but if she gets dragged into it, I mean, they'll smear her. They'll find ways to put her down. And then, you know, you don't know how other people are going to react. It's not particularly stable in the Democratic Party right now, because there are factions of moderates and progressives, and they're not getting along.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about, but that sounds accurate. And even sub-factions within that, you know, environmentalists and vegans and
oh no, that's the progressive faction. They all fall under one thing. It's like, you know, they'll all agree with it. Look, I mean, would you think of Cory Booker as a progressive or as like a moderate?
Progressive.
Well, yeah, that's the point. He's a vegan.
But even still, some of the, you know, like the Muslims and transgenders, I mean, how do they get along?
I don't know. But that's another thing. Not all the groups get along with each other. That's why it's hard to build a coalition. I mean, building a coalition under any circumstance is going to be difficult, but when you have groups that might not have the same interests at hand, it might be more difficult. You kind of have to play it delicately. When you play it delicately, you kind of keep things separate, or you don't talk about it in the same context. You try not to have them butt heads. I think that's how it's handled.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you think about Islam, Islam is a really conservative way of thinking. I mean, Sharia law, well, I mean, to the credit of Sharia law, they have very low rates of single motherhood in these Arab countries, in the Middle East.
Documented.
I mean, you can only go off of documents, but of the information we have, they seem to have very intact families.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very conservative way of thinking. You put family first. You know, you could say it's a preference. I think family should come first as a general thing, but they have that mindset, and there's, you know, that's a little bit conflicting with I would think transgenderism to some extent. I can't imagine that Sharia law would tolerate transgenders. It's very strict.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose cultures are open to change over time.
Sure. I mean, but then you're rewriting it. You know, conservative Catholicism, the priests used not to be able to be married. I think Pope Francis came out a few weeks ago saying that he was going to look into it or something. I don't remember the exact specific things he said.